let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Say again? Oh, 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. It says, let each one give. I'm reading out the Amplified version. It says, let each one give as he has made up his own mind and purpose in his heart, not reluctantly or sorrowfully or under compulsion. For God loves, he takes pleasure in, prizes above other things, and is unwilling to abandon or to do without a cheerful, joyous, prompt to do it giver, whose heart is in his giving. And then when you actually do verse 7, what verse 7 says, then you can say that, then you will get what verse 8 says. It says, and God is able to make all grace, every favor and earthly blessing come to you in abundance, so that you may always and under all circumstances and whatever the need be, self-sufficient, possessing enough to require no aid or support, and furnished in abundance for every good work and charitable donation. So when you give, and you give with a joyous heart, a cheerful heart, then you can be sure that God will give you the grace, where it says the favor and earthly blessing, and he will make sure that will come to you in abundance, so that you will be self-sufficient, meaning that you will not require any aid. It says that you'll possess enough to require no aid or support, and then you'll be so much in abundance that you'll be able to give to every good work and charitable donations. You get God's favor. And there's an earthly blessing. So earthly blessing means you're going to get material things. I mean, finances, things in your hands. It's anything that's, blessing that most people are used to in the natural here on earth. It's not talking about, yes, it is also referring to spiritual blessing, but it also, it says earthly blessing. So that means, things in the natural that you get here on earth, that God will also bless us with that. Favor from God, it says that, that he will make all grace, which is favor and earthly blessing, come to you in abundance. And favor from God is priceless. It cannot be bought. It says you're to give, and you will get favor, but you cannot give with the motivation to get favor from God. Because like I said, favor from God cannot be bought. When you do things with the right heart motive, that's automatically going to be, what God says that will come to you. When your motivation is out of love for God, because you want to be a blessing to God and to the people, to his people, or to do whatever that he says to do, when he says to bless someone else with what you have in your hand, and you do it, then he will give you favor. Because your motivation is obeying God. You're doing what he says to do. So because of that, then you will get favor. When your motivation is to get something from God by doing something, that does not work. That's not how it works with God. That's not the right heart motive, and you will not get blessed. When you give happily, joyously to someone, or to a ministry, when you give to the church, when you give to anyone else, when you do it with a joyous heart, you can be guaranteed that God will move on your behalf, and He'll come through with His word. When He says, when you do this, then this is what will happen. He will follow through with what He said He's going to do. When you fulfill your part, and he will give you favor with man. it's, like I said before, favor can't be bought, and it's something that is totally out of our hands. The way we can get favor from God, the only way we can get favor from God is when we obey Him. When He says to do something, when we do it, then we will get favor. And that means that He will cause people to do things that they wouldn't necessarily do, on their own accord. It's almost like when you're believing God for something, or when you're going to someone and you're say maybe buying something and you're asking the Lord, please get me a good deal, give me favor with this person to get a good price. Maybe say for instance you're going to buy a car and you can pray and ask God to give you a favor, especially if you have a certain amount of money and there's a car that you really like, but you see that the price is a little bit above your budget, and you go into it with the favor of God behind you. God can cause that person to say, well, no, this is my list price, and this is what I really want. But you know what? Something I just really feel like I'm going to lower the price for you. When things like that happen, that's the favor of God, because that's not something that you could have done on there's no way that you could have gotten that person to change their mind or to lower their price. There's nothing in your hands that you could have possibly done, nothing in your power. But it's only because of God's favor that is able to move that person to give you favor and say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and lower the price for you. Just, they may not know why. All of a sudden they feel that urge to do that for you. But we know it's because of God. It's God's favor. There are some people, even in the church, it's really bad. It's rampant. That the only way some people know how to get an offering from the church is to twist people's arms, to manipulate people. Oh, some will say, I've heard many stories, some will say, if you give this amount, God will do this within the next few days. Or if you give this amount, say for example, if everyone gives 100 today, or if you don't give 100, you won't be blessed. And for those who don't really know the Word, who haven't been really studying His Word, they will easily be swayed and believe that. And they'll think, oh no, if I don't give 100 today, then I'm going to be cursed. But for those who know the Word, they won't be swayed by that. And that's why it's really important to know what the Word says. Because if you read the Word and you know what God says, He says you are blessed. When you obey Him, when you follow Him, and you do what He says, then you are blessed. That's the key thing. That's the only thing that guarantees your blessing from God is obedience. And when you don't know that, then you think, oh well, if I don't give this or if I don't do this, then I'm going to be cursed. No, if the Lord says for you to give 100, then yes, you should give 100. But if He didn't say that, then you shouldn't be afraid. If someone tells you, oh well, if you don't give $100 in this offering, then you're going to be cursed. No, because you know that. Well, especially if you examined your heart and you know that you've been following the Lord and you've been obeying and doing what His Word says to do. Then you should have confidence and know that you are not going to be cursed just because you don't give $100 in the offering. If He says to do it, then yes, then you are to do it and you are to obey it. And if you disobey, then yes, then you're not going to be blessed. And it's sad that so many people do that. And this is the real reason, the main reason why we teach on this every single week. So that you know what the Word says, and how to be blessed, and how giving can when you obey the Lord in the giving, because it is commanded that you are to give your tithes and your offerings, and then even outside of that to be a blessing to other people. You will be blessed. Luke 6:38, give and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, shall men pour into your bosom. So that's His Word. It says when you give, and then what happens? And then it will be given unto you. And that is a commandment. You are to give because what does it say? We are to be imitators of our Father. And all he does is give. He gave his only son. And he constantly gives. He loves to bless us. I mean, all of you who are parents know what joy it is to get things for your kids, right? Especially when you know something that they really wanted and things that they really enjoy and they always talk about, oh, I want this toy or I want that. And don't we have fun giving to our kids, being able to buy something that you know that they really have been wanting, and to see the joy when they get it. If we love to give to our kids in the natural, how much more does God love to give to us, his kids? We are his kids. So when you do that, then you will be blessed. That is being obedient to him. That is doing what his word says. When you do what the Lord commands you in every area of your life, not just in giving, then you are guaranteed to be blessed. This is why we want you to get a hold of this, because we don't. Too many churches don't. Too many leaders in the church, they don't teach their congregation why you should give. They just say, okay, well you need to give in this offering, and some will use manipulative practices and say, if you don't do this, you'll be cursed, and if you don't give this, or if you do give this, then you'll get this and that. If they would just teach what the word says, they wouldn't have to almost like squeeze your hand or squeeze your arm to give. If they would teach that every single week, then people will give freely. I mean, there's many times God talks about a free will offering to give freely from your heart. God doesn't like it when he has to twist your arm to get something from you. He wants you to give freely because you love him, because this is what you want to do, not because you're told to, and not because someone twists your arm to do it. That's why it's really important. And this is why we teach on this. We take time to teach on this every single week, so that you know and what happens when you give, why you should give, and how you will be blessed when you give, and how giving can get you out of financial bind. Because of how God's economy works, when God says to give, you actually get back when you give and more. That's how God works. But in the natural, it's like when you give away something, that's it, right? You usually, that's it. It leaves your hand and you don't get anything back. You may get a thank you or whatever, but there's nothing materially that comes back to you. But when it comes to God, when you give, God takes what you give, what you put into his hand, and he puts his supernatural power into it. He multiplies it, and then he causes other people to bring it back into your life. I mean, how really in the natural, there is no law that says if you give, you actually get more back, right? In the natural, you give and that's it. It's gone. But only when God's hand is upon it, only with God can you actually give something and get a whole boatload back. There's one story, I don't remember the exact verse of it, in the Gospels where God, the disciples, they were fishing all night and they caught nothing. They caught nothing all night. And Jesus had actually asked them for their boat, to borrow their boat so that he could go out onto the water and preach to the people. And because they loaned him their boat, God didn't just leave them and say, okay, well, I borrowed this, and I can give you back your boat. He actually wanted to bless them because of their willingness to lend him his boat without any question. He said, give me your boat, let me cast out into the sea. And they went ahead and they did it. And what happened? God blessed them back with a huge boatload of fish. Such a huge load of fish that they had to call person with a boat, say, hey, we got too many fish. Come, take some of this catch. It got so big where they're almost sinking. That's what we like to call, a boatload, boat sinking load of fish, a harvest. Only because of God can you sow something, and it can be as small, it doesn't matter the amount. When it comes from a good heart motive, He can bless you. He can bless you back so much that you don't have room to receive what's all coming in. I mean, you can get to the point where you're going to have to rent out a storage place or borrow someone else's, house to store all the stuff in. I mean, how many would like that? Would like to have that kind of a problem, saying, "Oh, I got so much. People want to bless me so much that I don't have room for all this. I need to find a way to get rid of this because I don't have the room." I like that. That's the kind of problem I like. Know that is possible with God. I mean, don't just let it go by and oh, well, that's just some kind of imaginative thing. It's happened. There are stories where we've heard people get so much. I think even our own pastor, he's gotten so many pairs of shoes from all the years of sewing clothes and clothing and shoes. Now he's constantly getting a supply. People constantly sending him shoes. Like he only has one pair. He only has a pair of feet. And how many pairs of shoes can you wear, right? At one time, you can only wear one pair of shoes. But he's gotten so many pairs of shoes now. People are constantly sending him shoes and clothes that he doesn't have, and he's constantly giving out the shoes because for him he doesn't. He's not like some people that they like a lot of shoes, but he's got plenty of shoes now. He's got a boatload of shoes that he doesn't know that now he has to find people to bless with. So I mean, this thing is not just some far off fairy tale thing. It really happens. There are people that are actually experiencing this, where they don't have the room they don't have the room for it. They have to find people to give. Who needs shoes? Who needs shoes? I have plenty of shoes. I got shoes to give out. So grab a hold of that. Don't just let it go by and think that, oh well, that can't happen to me. It can, and it has been happening to people. Yeah. Hebrews 11 verse 6 says, "And without faith it is impossible to please Him, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who seek Him." When you do what the Lord commands you to do, when you seek Him, you don't seek only His hand. You're seeking Him. You're not seeking Him for the things that you can get from Him, but you're seeking Him because you want to know Him, and because you love Him. Then you can count on the fact that you will be rewarded and you will be blessed. So don't ever let people sway you and say, oh, well, if you don't give this amount, you're going to be cursed. Or if you give this amount, then you'll be blessed. As long as you know that you are obeying the Lord and you're doing what He says to do, then you can be confident that you know that you are blessed. It's not a if you do this or if you do that. It's if you are doing what the Lord says to do, you're following Him, and you know that you are in right standing with Him, then you are blessed. Deuteronomy chapter 28 confirms it right here. Let me get to it real quick. The heading for this chapter says blessing for obedience. Verse 1 says, "And if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all His commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you." Overtake you. I mean, it's good. I don't know how many of you have ever been to the States and you drive on the highway and you get these big tractor trailers that on the highway, they all of a sudden they come up from behind you and they go right past you. I mean, your car will feel that tractor trailer driving right by you. It shakes the car, and that's being overtaken by a semi truck. But in this instance, when it says overtake you, blessings will come from behind you and they will just overwhelm you. That's what it means to be overtaken by his blessings, to overwhelm you and almost be buried in his blessings. It says that all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if, that's the key word here, if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. So if you don't obey the voice of the Lord your God, then you cannot have what it says. And it says so that you cannot have all these blessings shall come and overtake you. That's very important right there. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your ground, the fruit of your cattle, the increase of your herds, and the young of your flock. Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed shall you be when you come in, and blessed shall you be when you go out. The Lord will cause your enemies who rise against you to be defeated before you. They shall come out against you one way and flee before you 7 ways. The Lord will command the blessing on you in your barns and in all that you undertake. Everything that you do, everything you put your hands to, will be blessed. And he will bless you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. The Lord will establish you as a people holy to himself, and as he has sworn to you, if you keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. He's saying it again, if you keep the commandments of the Lord your God and you walk in his ways. And all the peoples of the earth shall see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of you. When you're walking in his ways and you're keeping his commandments, and you're being so blessed, people are going to take notice. They're going to know that you're blessed. There's going to be something about you. It's because of God's presence. That's going to be all around you. And they're going to see it in your life played out. They're going to see that you are blessed. Verse 11, and the Lord will make you abound in prosperity, in the fruit of your womb, and in the fruit of your livestock, and in the fruit of your ground, within the land the Lord swore to your fathers to give you. The Lord will open to you his good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hands. And you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And the Lord will make you the head and not the tail. And you shall not only go up and not down, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, being careful to do them. And if you do not turn aside from any of the words I command you today, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. There's a reason why he repeats himself, because he's emphasizing the key here. The key to your blessings is to obey, to walk in his commandments. If you obey the commandments of the Lord, which I command you today, being careful to do them, and if you do not turn aside from any of the words that I command you today, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. People wouldn't have to ask, why am I not being blessed, if they would remember these words. If they do a self-examination every once in a while and say, hey, am I doing God's word? Am I walking in his ways? Am I following his commandments? Then we should never question whether or not, why are we not being blessed? Because if we constantly examine ourselves and we see whether or not we are doing what his word says, and we find ourselves not doing what his word says, and we make the necessary adjustments, then we guarantee that we are blessed, that he will bless us. And then it goes. This chapter goes on. The next part of it talks about all the curses for the disobedience. I'm not going to go over it now, but I recommend you go over that just to remind you. As a reminder, what happens when you disobey God? And to remember who God is. And to remember that there are consequences to disobedience. We all like to focus on God's blessings, but we need to remember, as a warning to ourselves, this is what's going to happen to me if I disobey the Lord. Don't let any man force or compel you to give. Let it freely come out of your heart, out of a love for God. Don't give with the motivation to get something from God. The only motivation that you should have to give is because you love God and you want to show Him just how much you love Him and how grateful you are to Him for what He's done for you.
True.
That's the only reason why you should give. And then, of course, yes, we should expect God's blessing back because He said to expect it, and we can't get it if we don't expect it. But the key here is what is your motivation. What is your heart motivation? Make sure your heart motivation is correct. That it is because you love God, and only because of that. That is the reason why you're giving. Not to get something from His hand. And really, the only person in a sense that really can compel you is God Himself. He's the only one who can compel you to give because He loves you. And it says we love Him because He first loved us. And it's because of that our motivation to give should come from that. And let that be your motivation to give, and then give whatever He says to give. When you obey to give, do it with a cheerful heart. Don't and make that your goal to be. I forgot to kind of mention that or talk about that more so. Where in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7, where he says, "For God loves, He takes pleasure in, prizes above other things, and is unwilling to abandon or to do without a cheerful, joyous, prompt to do it giver, whose heart is in His giving." He said He is unwilling to do without. He's unwilling to abandon someone that is joyous and is a cheerful giver, that loves to give and is generous. He will not do without someone like that. We each have our roles, and not that He needs us, but He chooses to use us. He chooses to use us. He takes pleasure when he gets to use His children and being a blessing to other people. That's what he chooses to do. That's what He likes. He likes to use us, because that's what He created us for. He created us for a purpose. He has a purpose for each and every single one of us. And when we truly follow hard after Him, and we are generous and we are cheerful givers, He is unwilling to abandon us and to do without us. Many years, I don't remember how long ago it was, when from our home church, one of the speakers that used to teach us in Bible school, and she was actually one of the speakers at the last ministry conference. She spoke, Pastor Debbie. She, I can't remember how many years ago she had fallen sick, and she was rushed to the hospital, and our pastors were away somewhere else doing meetings. I think they were in a totally different country. I think they were in South Africa at the time. So they weren't able to go visit her in the hospital, and they were praying for her. And our pastor said that when they were praying for her, when the Lord spoke to Pastor Donica specifically and said, she's fine, don't worry, she'll live. I can't do without her because she is a giver. I mean, to me, that spoke volumes. Like, wow, I mean, for him to actually tell my pastor that this lady, Pastor Debbie, was going to live because he can't do without her because she is a giver. That tells you how important being a cheerful giver is. Being a generous, cheerful giver. And that totally confirms the scripture where he says that he is unwilling to abandon and do without a generous, prompt to do it giver. Because when you have that kind of a heart, when you can so freely give, the minute he says give this and give that, and you don't have any qualms about giving, that tells the Lord that he has your whole entire heart. because you're so quick to just give, because and that also shows just how obedient you are to him. That you will follow his word the minute he speaks, and you trust him completely. That you have no problem giving of what you have in your hand. That's why it is so important, and it speaks volumes to the Lord about your heart and your character, because it shows the Lord that material goods and money does not have your heart. That God has your whole heart. And when God has your whole heart, he knows he can do great things in you. And that is why he cannot do without people like that. So I encourage you to make that your goal. Strive to be that kind of a person. To where your heart, your heart is always cheerful in your giving, and to be that person that God just cannot do without. That he will do everything, that he will. That he will say that I can't have this person leave Earth because they are so vital to my plans and purposes on Earth that he can't do without you. Strive and make that your aim to be that kind of person. And let love be your sole motivation for everything, giving and everything else, and everything that you do.